Anybody need any audio up here? Are you all set?
Giving a test there for
Check 1 2, check 1 2, test 1 2.
Well, we probably want to test from over here closer to this mic.
Is this mic working?
Yep.
All right, all set on audio? All right, well, thank you all for coming out today. I just wanted to share our experience from going to the border down there with Mexico. And I think the thing that was most interesting to me is how much it seems like this whole process is organized. It seems almost like on our side of the aisle in America, it's kind of like a welcoming committee. You have the Texas National Guard, the Border Patrol, the people who are giving the security down there. They are doing a better job, and they're deterring a lot to where people are going across the border into Arizona or California now. But people are still able to get in through Texas, and they actually don't try to evade the Texas National Guard or the Border Patrol. The people who are coming over, as long as they're not dangerous people, they oftentimes actually will approach the Texas National Guard for assistance in their process to come over here. It is in the more rural areas between Del Rio and Eagle Pass where we did spend some time, where some of the more dangerous people will try to sneak across through the rural areas. And of course, people are paying anywhere between $2,000 up to $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 to illegally cross the border. The more high profile the person is, the more they tend to have to pay the coyotes, and the more they go to the rural area. And it's also important to know a lot of the more dangerous people we heard from talking with people in the community down there in the Eagle Pass and their surrounding area are people coming from countries other than Mexico, whether it's Venezuela, Colombia, the Middle East, China. People are coming from 140, 150 different countries using Mexico as their direction to come through across the border down there. And I think that we should assess how our immigration policies are failing our nation. I believe that an open border policy with welfare programs and incentives to come across illegally is incentivizing people. It's not only a taxpayer problem, but it's also a national security issue. If you come over, you should come over legally, and we should not disincentivize coming over legally. If you come over legally, it shouldn't take you 5 years and 8 months to go through the process. We should have a pathway to citizenship that's much faster. Something like a background check, I think, should be considered. And if you pass that background check, you're allowed to come over. That's the American dream. Free markets, equal opportunity, the opportunity to provide for yourself and your family. That's what America is all about. Not about coming across illegally, not about having the cartels involved, not about owing money back to people who assisted in having you come across in a dangerous way across the river. We need to get back to common sense foreign policy and common sense immigration to ensure that we have safety here in our nation. So with that, I will turn it over to Dakota to play a quick video here.
Not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country all Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, every place in this country are rightly disturbed.
It's about all the people who are paying a price because of a broken immigration system. All the communities that are taking immigration enforcement into their own hands. All the neighborhoods that are seeing rising tensions as citizens are pitted against new immigrants. The American people need us to put an end to the petty partisanship that passes for politics in Washington. And they need
As
us
we
to
just heard
enact
there from former
comprehensive
President Bill
immigration
Clinton and former
reform
President
once
Barack
and for
Obama,
all.
They took
They
immigration
need not.
policy
We
from
can't
us
wait 20 years from now to do it.
from
We
this
can't.
administration today, and what we see now is either incompetence or sabotage of our nation. We need to, as the state of Michigan and throughout our country, take this issue seriously. And what we've seen is failure from our administration. Whether it's incompetence or sabotage, it's unacceptable, and we deserve better. With that, I'll turn over to Representative Maddock.
Thank you, Representative. Why is this nation the only nation in the world with an open border? I was impressed with Texas. Texas did a great job, and if every single border state did what Texas did, we would have a marginally secure border. When we were there, we saw the aftermath of what I call a giant crime scene. What I mean by that is when you actually walk across or walk near the border, you can see mountains of clothing, bras, underwear, all types of garments. I call it the world's largest outdoor Salvation Army. Piles and piles of clothes. And that's pretty eerie. But Texas has done a pretty good job. There was a point when, before they sent National Guards down to Texas, when we had about 70,000 people crossing the border in this region every week. And there's still remnants of that. When we started asking questions about this federal processing center, we had people come out with guns. Not drawn guns, but they were rather intimidating when we started asking questions. And I think the Democrat Party has taken a 180-degree turn over what we saw previous administrations' view on border security. I think we have open borders. I think it's a very dangerous thing. Granted, we were told that, and we saw some people cross that were not necessarily dangerous people, but we also know that there's very dangerous people crossing the border. And another aspect that I found quite revealing was the fact that this is a giant money trail. There is so much money involved in human trafficking across our borders, whether it be through the dozens of nonprofits that we as taxpayers pay to relocate these people, between $4,000 to $10,000 each. That's still happening today. The coyotes are charging exorbitant fees, call them the fees, import fees, and a lot of these people, when they come back, or when they come to the United States, are being forced into an underground criminal economy because they can't get jobs, and they're being forced to pay the coyotes back, etc. Another interesting tidbit that I learned is oftentimes when the coyotes have a high priority client, a first class passenger, they will often send 30 or 40 third class passengers, low fare payers, across the border to tie up immigration, or to tie up the Border Patrol, and then they would basically flood the Border Patrol with these low-paying immigrants, invaders, to get the high-priority invaders across the border. And oftentimes these high-priority people that they're paying are often the bad people, so they will actually use good people to get the criminals to occupy border security, Border Patrol, to get the bad people across, and that was pretty astounding. Representative DeSana?
Thank you, Representative. My district covers south of Detroit Metro Airport, and sanctuary cities and sanctuary counties are very high on the list of issues for me. Being from Monroe, the area between Toledo, Ohio, and Detroit is a human trafficking hub, and there is a lot of human trafficking going on currently. So we want to enforce our laws. We don't want to create sanctuary cities or sanctuary counties where people can be free from our laws. A big issue here is these people are coming to our country, and then we're giving them sanctuary from our laws, which the people of my district do not want that, and they know the risk. They know the risks to our communities, and like Representative Maddock said, a large percentage of these people that are coming through are friendly and mean no harm. But if even 1 to 2% of the people coming through mean harm to Americans or are not willing to obey our laws, it's going to be very detrimental for my district and for the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. This trip that Representative Carra and Representative Maddock and myself took was quite a highlight, probably the highlight of my political career so far. I think the thing that was unique about us is, down in Shelby Park, they have a media tent set up with all the bells and whistles there. But that's not what we went there for. We didn't even stop there. We drove right by there, and they said, Fox News has been there for, I forget now, a month or two. They're there every day. We went down there to see the things that nobody else sees, to look for the things that nobody else is interested in looking for. We didn't go down there for a bunch of photo ops and to rub elbows with a bunch of who's. We went to truly see what was going on, and we were very successful in that. I kind of am a little bit proud of the fact that we were short-term celebrities in Texas. There was nowhere we were going. We couldn't have picked a better vehicle. We had a black SUV that we were driving around in, and people were just like, what are these guys up to? I mean, they were here at 11:30 at night. They're here early in the morning. Yeah, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we saw you on the last 30 cameras. You guys drove down this little trail. You were up here by this water levee. And so that was great. It was a great experience to see that. And as the other representatives have already mentioned, unfortunately, I don't see that anybody really wants this situation to end. There's so much money involved in it. I know people, so I live in Charlevoix. I'm from northern Michigan. My district is the House District 107. And I got a little flack from people at home. They're like, what on earth are you doing down in Texas? What do we care about Texas? That's their problem. It's not their problem. It's our problem. Michigan, as far north, confirmed as far north as Traverse City. There's been people that have been bussed into Traverse City. People have been bussed into the Grand Rapids area and other parts of the state. As Representative DeSana mentioned, in Detroit, the homeless shelters there are completely overrun by the illegals, that the homeless people don't even have a place to stay now. And so this is a problem for the whole country, not just those states that are on the border themselves. So, we went there to bring awareness to it, and I believe we've done that. And I was glad to be a part of it. And I think at this point we're going to open it to questions.
I'm with State Capitol Reporter, WLX Lansing, WNEM in Saginaw, and LUC in UP. So, just one of the things that a lot of people, have been talking about is just with the things like infrastructure, like roads and maybe like teacher pensions. There's a lot of things that need money and resources in the state. I guess what would be your response to why do you feel like sending National Guard troops down to the southern border is so important?
So we had conversations with many National Guards people, and a lot of them were from Texas. They were from towns not too far from the border. And one thing they told us that we were not aware of is the fact that a lot of these immigrants are coming over, and they are not taking over our schools, but they are, our classrooms in that area are overcrowded. So there's a tremendous amount of stress put on our local school systems down there too. And that's going to happen wherever these immigrants are being shipped. It's going to affect our education system with our children, because if you have 65, 70 students in a classroom when you should have 30, our schools have to accommodate these immigrants too. So that is another important factor that we learned too.
If the situation that you saw when you were down there is, why not support the Senate immigration deal, especially in terms of the money that it would have provided for, say, the asylum seeking process, the processing? I mean, there would have been a vast, huge increase in that budget to process these asylum seekers faster and help to provide what you were talking about at the very beginning, which is find a safe, quick, legal way to citizenship, or to process their asylum claims and send them back.
I'll take this one.
I would say that that idea the Senate had included all kinds of money to go to other places, and it's something that the military-industrial complex absolutely would want. Perpetual war and perpetual funding to a government solution to a government-made problem is what I would refer to this as. If we just quit giving the free handouts, if we quit incentivizing illegal immigration, if we quit giving them all kinds of credit cards or housing assistance, if those things aren't happening, phones. California, of course, is the biggest player in this process with the illegal immigrants. But if we quit having those types of welfare programs, and if we quit incentivizing illegal immigration, if we made legal immigration easier, if the process didn't take 5 years and 8 months on average to come across legally, if we made it more enticing to come over the right way, and we quit making it enticing to come over the wrong way, we could save our nation all kinds of headaches. Free markets and the opportunity to provide for yourself and your family and coming over legally is the American dream, and I think that would be a far more cost-effective route than what we're seeing today.
Yeah, another thing we learned also, we learned that many of these countries are sending their criminals. They are basically telling their criminals that are in prison, we will let you out if you go to the United States and don't come back. Think about that for a minute. And these are some bad people out there that we're allowing across our border. And, maybe background checks might be good if the country has the infrastructure for that. But a lot of these nations have no infrastructure for any sort of background check to begin with. In addition to that, when you cross the border, guess what you can say your name is? My name is Juan Valdez. You can make up any name you want because people do not have ID. There are piles of identification cards and driver's licenses on the Mexican side of the border. People drop their ID, they come to the United States, and they have a new life and a new name, and they can make up anything they want.
And that's how it is under the current process. But if we were to vet these people, make sure they're safe before they come over, they're not going to lose their ID before coming over because they're going to want to prove, look, I am innocent, I have this for you, I can show you America,
Right.
I have a clean record. Or if for whatever reason they come from a very poor area and they simply don't have that identification and they truly don't and they don't purposely lose it, then you can go through an interrogation process and say, who are you, why are you coming to America, do we trust them? And if you go through that process, then we can vet who's coming over, whether it's with their identification, with their background check, or through that interrogation.
Right.
Well, and didn't that Senate bill also have a 5,000 threshold, a 5,000 person threshold that we were still going to allow to come here illegally? And that's a problem that I have. To still allow illegal immigration, that bill would have allowed 1.5 million people coming through illegally.
It would have drastically reduced it. I mean, it was supported by the border agents union. Said it wasn't perfect, better than nothing. They wanted quick approval. So I guess, in terms of deploying the guard, it's the realistic thing is the governor's not going to deploy the guard. I don't think I'm too far afield.
Not the governor here in Michigan,
Right,
no.
okay.
But there has been 6 states who have deployed the National Guard to assist in securing the border. And I think that's a wonderful thing.
And I think it's worth considering Arizona by this point, too, because Texas and other states have helped Texas with their border. It's over 1,200 miles. People are starting to shift into going across Arizona and, of course, California. I would think whether it's our state, which, like you said, the governor probably doesn't have an appetite to shut down illegal immigration. She likes what's happening to our state here. But Arizona is something that I think other states should consider for their national
The
guard.
invasion is not going to happen. Think of it as a giant pipeline of people, okay? The pipeline may have been temporarily shut off or stopped at the Texas border because they're doing a decent job, they're doing a great job securing their border. But eventually that pipeline is going to get so many people in it, and they're going to have to deflect and move that pipeline to discharge somewhere else. And that's probably going to be in Arizona, with the states that are not securing their border.
One thing I would just add to that first question is, I think it's only fair that other states help with resources. We have a heartfelt thanks to Texas. They're expending a tremendous amount of resources on this effort. And for us to do a small part of sending some help down there, and Texas is actually willing to pay for all that.
Mm-hmm.
If Michigan would send some National Guard troops down there, it wouldn't actually cost our base anything. Texas is willing to pay for all that help and that support. So I think that's really important to note. There's really no reason for us not. Just think if we had some terrible crisis in the northern border here with Canada, for example, and we were stuck with the whole burden of defending the whole country with, majority of our tax dollars here in Michigan, that wouldn't be fair to us. And so neither is it fair to these southern border countries that it's their problem and we just get to reap the benefits of all their efforts.
And these brave men and women in the National Guard, they signed up to guard our nation. So this idea that we're going to send them overseas to fight in foreign wars that are undeclared, unconstitutional wars that did not follow Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution, but we can't use them to secure our border, is an unacceptable approach.
Just regarding your statements earlier about wanting an easier path to citizenship, it feels like that's been a talking point we've seen for a long time on both sides of the aisle from different voices. Why do you feel like that's taken so long, and how much daylight is there between what you're saying when you say you want an easier path to citizenship, or then when President Obama said he wants to see an easier path to citizenship, and whenever he said that, what do you think?
Yeah, I believe that's the American dream, and part of the problem we have with the backlogs to where it's 5 years and 8 months on average is because there's quotas on the number of people who can come over legally. And if that backlogs the system, people who are just looking to come over here and provide for themselves and their families, and hardworking people who are going to naturalize themselves into our country, if they want to come on over, I don't see any reason why there should be any quotas. And I think that's something that Michiganders and people throughout the nation can agree with. That's the American dream. Why do we have quotas? But quit giving them the free welfare and the government taxpayer-funded programs.
That kind of dovetails into the question I had, and I'm with Zach here, Gray TV, NEM, ILX, and LUC. What, in your estimation, is the right amount of immigration? If the spectrum is, 1 million a year through legal immigration and just this open door, everybody come in, where do we want to land?
The right number is what the invisible hand of a free market would determine it to be. Good question. I know it's a short answer, but that's my answer.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and who would you negotiate with? Like, who wants zero and who wants everybody? And how do we have that discussion?
Well, I guess to give you a longer answer on that, I would say if you didn't have cartels involved and getting all kinds of money off of this whole process to where the people are down there, actually nonprofit organizations and cartels encouraging people to come to America because that gets them more money when more people cross the border. If that system didn't exist because they benefit from illegal immigration, if legal immigration was easier for safe people and people who are not safe were not allowed in, if we had that system, the invisible hand like I'm talking about, free markets, the opportunity to move to America and to be naturalized and to become legal citizens, that's up to each individual family, uncoerced, unintimidated by the cartels, not extorted by the people who get money because they come through Guatemala or the Darien Gap. If you got rid of that whole system and you had freedom throughout the world, we'd be in a much better place. But what we have is tyranny, corruption, people are seen as a commodity. The more people who travel illegally, the more bad guys get money.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Can I add something to that, Steve, too? Go ahead.
One thing that I would add to this conversation is the people that are, so many of the people that are coming across are actually being totally misled. They're being lied to by the people, by the coyotes and the people that are sending them here. They're telling them, go to the U.S., it's a better place, it's a better life. But so many of these people are actually caught in a trap. When they come here, it's not a better life for them. They've got to be deceitful, they've got to lie, they've got to be sneaky. They're going to end up with jobs where so often they're paid under the table. Any money that they do earn is going back to Mexico. They're not stimulating our economy by coming over here and working. They're sending that money back to their own country to support their families there. Our family has an orchard, and we've used migrant labor for years. And these people, they live very simply. They wear the same clothes for the whole summer when they're up there. They're spending, as little money as they absolutely have to in the U.S. they're wiring money by the droves every week. When they get their paycheck, they immediately go to the local grocery store where there's a Western Union hub, and they're sending that money back to Mexico. So I feel bad for a lot of these people because, again, they're being promised, they're paying whatever it is, $2, $3, $4, $5, $10,000 to come here for a better life, and really it's not going to be a better life for them.
I have in my district several large greenhouse operations, and I've met with them and talked with them. A lot of these, we have a problem with guest workers, not having enough of them. We need workers. A lot of these workers that are coming do not intend to stay here. They want to come here for economic benefit, they want to work, and then they go back to Mexico. And their families stay in Mexico. Their wives, daughters, sons, they go back. The one greenhouse operation I met with, it is 100% men between 20 and 40 years old. They come here to work for 9 months, and they, like Neil said, they're sending money back to their family, and they go back in November, December, and January. They go back to Mexico. So I'm not sure that everyone who's coming here is coming here to stay here. They're coming here for economic benefit, and I agree. I think we should allow an expansion of the guest worker program. Now, I know this is a federal issue, but he told me our H-2A program is pretty much broken. You cannot determine which workers you get. He said I could go down to Mexico, hire 30 or 40 people that I want. The federal government doesn't allow me to do that. I have to take a random group of 20, and half of them may work out, half of them may not, and it's a real problem for our agricultural industry. And I think that needs to be addressed as well. Thank you.
Any other questions?
A somewhat related question, what do you think about the sanctions that were levied against Representative Shriver based on his posting about the Great Replacement theory?
I believe that a controversial post that was made on social media is nothing in comparison to the fact that Democrats voted for a racist budget last term. Section 1017 of the budget last term, if you want to look into that, it was $10 million in grant money, and in order to qualify for that grant program, it was based on qualification of your skin color. If you were a minority person, you were eligible for this grant program. If you were a Caucasian, you were not eligible for this program. That by race or racism is to determining whether or not you have eligibility for a grant program as a small business. I think that had no place in a budget here in the state of Michigan. Every Democrat voted for it. It was a racist budget. They should have taken that $10 million out of there. It's
Well, how does that
inexcusable.
relate back to the Great Replacement theory, which posits that it's a purposeful allowing of illegals to cross the border?
Well, yeah. Representative Shriver making the post that he did and making his argument, you could ask him why he made it. But I'm not trying to say whether or not I would have made that post. But if he's going to post something controversial, that's his decision to make. And if he's going to have committees stripped from him, whereas Democrats are able to vote for a racist budget and not have their committees stripped, I think every single Democrat should have their committee stripped from them for voting for a racist budget. End of story, period.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.